This is Jocko Podcast number 123 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Now, this podcast is the third in a series of podcasts that I've done. And if you haven't listened to podcasts number 121 and 122, then go back and listen to those episodes before you listen to this one. The first of those podcasts, number 121, tells the story of Chesty Puller, the iconic and heroic Marine Corps legend that fought in 5 wars, was awarded 5 Navy Crosses, the most of any serviceman ever. He retired as a 3-star general after rising through the ranks from private. Podcast 122 tells a much different story. It tells the story of Chesty Puller's son, Lewis Puller Jr., who also joined the Marine Corps, who fought in Vietnam, who was horrifically wounded and continued to fight against pain and against loss and against depression and addiction when he returned home from war. And in the end, he lost that battle. After falling back into the downward spiral of alcohol and prescription painkillers, he became another statistic of the most dreadful kind. He turned the gun on himself and took his own life. And as I said at the beginning of this series, I was seriously questioning whether or not I could do this podcast. If I had the wherewithal to gut through the pain of that story. And more important, if it was the right thing to do, if it was the right thing to bring this story to light. Because clearly the story does not have a happy ending. And I wondered if there was any good at all to be found in it. But I also know that darkness left unchecked and ignored is darkness that grows. And if we do not learn from the past, then we know we are condemned to repeat it. There was one more compelling thing that allowed me to go forward in producing this series of podcasts. About a year ago, I think, I was in Texas and I was speaking at the Chris Kyle Memorial Benefit. And I met someone there. He was a Marine. His uncle was a Marine. His grandfather was a Marine. And he had been severely wounded in Iraq. And as I learned more about him, I came to understand the hell he had been through was much more than just physical. Like many veterans, the psychological wounds were also severe. But he had fought against the pain, fought against the loss, fought the fight that so many other veterans fight, and he had come out the other side stronger and better and had dedicated his life to helping other veterans win that fight. His name is Jacob Schick, and it is an honor to have him on the podcast with us here tonight. Jake, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Thanks for coming on, man.
You bet. I'm here to help.
Well, I know you help a lot of people, and I want to hopefully get you out there reaching even more people.
Let's do it.
When I first met you, I was just talking to you. I don't know, I probably spent a couple hours at some random bar in a hotel somewhere in Texas.
Yeah, over there in the stockyards. Yeah.
And, I was like, man, and I told you then, I said, you got to come get on my podcast. But when I was, like I said, when I was reading these books, I was saying to myself, I gotta have I got to show the other side, man. I got to show that you can get out of this and you can get through it. And there's no better example of that than you and the fight that you've been through. So let's get into it, man.